Okay, so I wanted to do this training for you. I've taken it from a larger training that I've done all around the success codes or confidence codes. They're both kind of interchangeable, and I wanted to share it with you here because these three codes can shift absolutely everything for you, and they really are very much a good fit for the Radiant Woman Rising Summit. So let's jump straight into it. We're going to be really looking at through the lens of confidence, okay? Because so many women come to me saying, I just want to be more confident. They want to be able to speak up, to speak their truth, to build a business that they love. And maybe you don't want to build a business, but maybe for you, it is just being able to be more vocal in how you think and how you feel and what you actually do want moving forward. So let's jump straight into it. So here we go. Let me know if you can see that okay. Okay, so these are the three codes to really amplifying your confidence. So first of all, it is, as we know, confidence is, sorry about that, is self-assured, feeling secure in yourself and your abilities, trusting yourself, backing yourself, knowing your strengths, your values, your skill deficits, knowing that you have the right tools or people or resources to support you wherever you're at, not seeking approval from others because you're receiving that approval internally. That is key. And it's a mental and emotional state that empowers you to take action despite fear, despite doubt. Being magnetic, this is where we have that presence, that personality that's very interesting, alluring, fascinating, intriguing. There's substance there. And we all know examples of that where people are so lit up with passion, with purpose, with vitality. Like that is so magnetic. People can feel that. People are drawn to that. And that is where you start to draw things to you. It is a mindset and it's very much a palpable energy that people can feel. And this is not coming from being really wealthy, wearing the latest designer clothes or handbags. It's not a one size fits all universal strategy. It's not about being a supermodel or a really popular influencer or A-lister. And it's not about being a guru or a teacher or a leader or a super coach or working with one or being in their proximity. It is about knowing your blueprint. And so the blueprint approach, which I came up with, is very much where you're knowing yourself more deeply. Self-discovery and self-mastery is where it's at. It's not a one-size-fits-all plan or strategy. It's specific to you. It is strengthening your mind-body connection, working holistically on your health, your business, your money, your relationships, understanding your powers, your values, your passions, your potent energies and potential challenges. It is about emotional self-mastery, strengthening your intuition, really taking responsibility for where you're at and where you're going. It is awareness and clarity around this is my current situation and here's the roadmap to get to where I want to get to. And it centers around these three key confidence codes, which you can use in any area. So the confidence codes, they work together. They're a solid foundation for everyone. They're very multifaceted and they are specific to you. So we have clarity. The second confidence code is mindset and energetics. And the third is health and wellness. You would have seen this in the free resource that I had for you. And I also sell it as a much larger guide and workbook for you where there's trackers and things like that. But let's dive into it. So clarity is the first confidence code. So clarity is in, do you know what you actually want and desire? Do you actually spend time focusing on it? Because most time people are actually feeling and focusing really on what they don't want. So they can say to you, well, I know that I don't want this. And just say it comes to like a relationship. Well, I don't want this sort of guy and I don't want this and I don't want to put up with that. So it's like, okay, so you're really clear on that, but are you clear and focusing and spending time on visualizing what you actually do want? So it's lack of clarity actually keeping you safe because we need to be looking at this secondary benefit piece because a lot of times things are persisting, like situations that we don't necessarily want, but they're there because they're serving us on some level. It's also been clear on, do you know yourself? Like, do you even know what your values are? Do you know what you're interested in? Do you know what you're passionate about? Do you know your why? Do you know, what you believe in? Do you know your strengths, your weaknesses? Do you know your energy type? All of that is really key. And I often say that to people in coaching sessions, especially when we're doing like longer coaching packages. It's really good to get that clarity in each area rather than saying, oh, I want to be healthy, I want to be wealthy, I want to be in love. It's like, okay, so what does health actually look like to you? So you might say, well, I want to be this way, and then I want to maintain it. I want to sleep 8 hours. I want my gut health to be improved. I want it to look like this. Whatever it is, same thing with finances. It's all well and good to say, I want to be financially secure. What does that even mean? Is it a certain amount of money coming in each month? Is it a particular amount of savings that you never drop below? Really get clarity on your goals. We've got to work with the brain's wiring. And I cover all of this in the Shine Bible, which you would have seen the free resource. But when we work with the brain's wiring, we need to make sure that there's no doubt, there's no complication, there's no fear, there's no uncertainty around our goal or desire. Because when there is, it doesn't make it to the prefrontal cortex. And that's what we need to get to in order to take action. So often that's where it's good to start with, you might have heard of this acronym, the SMART principle or the START principle. So you want to make that goal very specific, measurable, achievable. You want it to be realistic, or reasons for wanting it. And then you want it time framed. So is it, within 2 months, by the end of summer, within 6 weeks, and then also what are the tangible steps you're taking towards that? So if it is, wanting a specific money amount in your business, so, get specific about that. What sort of time frame is that actually achievable for you? Like, if you're saying I want 500K months, well, are you currently getting at least 10K months? Like, we want it to be sort of realistic for your mind to get behind as well. And you want to then be able to have those tangible steps. So maybe it's like, well, I have invested in this particular mentor. I'm showing up every day. I have these resources. I have this particular resource that I can, send out to people. I can do clarity calls, whatever it is. We want to be taking action towards it daily. There is that commitment. And once you're all in, that is when momentum builds. We also want to be able to get to know ourselves, like clear on who we are and all the things that we touched on already. So this is where, meditation, contemplation, journaling regularly is fantastic. It helps become really present to some of our thoughts, our beliefs. Maybe there's emotions that are coming up all the time or blocks. And you often find there's key patterns, there's key threads. And in the work that I do with clients, I do it intuitively, but you can do this yourself as well. And this is where, as I said, you're really becoming present, allowing the time and space to see what's going on under the surface. There's various profiling tests you can do. People talk about love languages. There's the Myers-Briggs. And then, of course, there's your natal chart, which I absolutely love. So life purpose astrology is something I studied several years back. And that's really given me a whole new outlook on knowing myself, but knowing myself in relationships and how I show up in the world, how I'm received, and your human design body graph as well. So meditation, as we know, it's going to help you physically, but this is where you get to know yourself because you're quietening down the ego, the mind chatter, the incessant, and often ruminating thoughts. You can become present to inspired ideas and emotions and thoughts. So with the natal chart, this is where, and astro.com is fantastic for this. You just need your date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth, and at that time, that exact time, that's when we can see the positions of the sun, the moon, the planets, and other celestial points relative to the earth at that time of birth. And this is where we can gain fantastic insights in terms of your personality, what gets you fired up, how you need to take things into account when what nourishes you. Also, how, what you value in life, maybe where some wounding is, your superpowers, some obstacles. It's a great way that you can get to know yourself, more clarity on who you are. I don't use it to predict the future. Some people do, but looking through the lens of, life purpose, strengths, abilities is just phenomenal. your human design body graph. So human design, I studied that several years back, and it's something I continue to sort of really be drawn to, and I use it a lot myself. I'm a manifesting generator energy type, but there is the 5 different energy types. And human design, it's a kind of a blend of different ancient and modern sciences, but it's using that same data as the natal charts, your time of birth, place of birth, and date of birth. And with that, once again, you can find really profound insights into your psychology, strategies, techniques for making correct decisions to help you lead more of a life of ease and fulfillment. And we all have a signature, whether it's peace or satisfaction or success or surprise, that comes when you're living in accordance with your true nature. And this is what the body graph looks like. You've got these 9 energy centers. Some are colored in and defined. Some will be, for a lot of people, open or undefined. And that in itself tells you a lot about, where you shine, where you're more open, where you need to do more kind of deconditioning or more, inner work. So really, really fascinating way of getting to know yourself. So confidence code 2 is mindset and energetics, because everything is energy. We know that. Atoms themselves are 99.99% space, and space is filled with vibration. Energy happens first and the physical world second. Our physical body has layers of energy. The aura, the energy centers, the chakras, they're taking in energy, and blockages can occur. And we can have energy blockages and imbalances, not only in the chakras, we talk about 7 major chakras, there is more than that, but also the meridians, so the energy points, the energy channels. So if you go and get acupuncture or acupressure, that is where, they're really using these energy channels, these meridian points. And when there's a blockage there, an imbalance, that is when we can have physical ailments, and also we can have various chronic emotional states. So physically, you might, for instance, have an imbalance in the root chakra, and that can be causing you to not feel safe, to have problems with your legs or your bowels potentially. Also, we talk about emotions having an affinity with the organs. So sometimes where there's liver dysfunction and issues, there might be a lot of unresolved or suppressed anger. So really, really interesting, as I said, to be looking at this energetic piece. Now, with mindset and energy, we're having so many thoughts every day. They reckon 60,000 plus thoughts a day on average. Most are said to be negative. Most are the same as what we've previously had. But there's a lot we can do in this area. But this is where no one else is privy to your thoughts. This is something that you can really do, and you can only do. Same with your beliefs. Like, what are they? Do those beliefs work for you or against you? Do you want to change them? Even a belief like, you've got to work really hard for money. Is that working for you? Or is it causing you to have to hustle and work really hard and stress? And does that serve you? Do you want to change it? Same thing with emotion. Are you aware of them? You might be constantly feeling really worried all the time. Do you want that? Is that serving you? Likely not. We want to be processing these emotions. As they say, if you can actually allow yourself to process an emotion, within like 90 seconds, it's kind of been felt and released. How do we more consciously and intentionally create a life that we desire? And we need to be aware of the conscious and the subconscious, because most of us, we're trying to work at this level, like what we're conscious of, like, oh, yes, well, I'm conscious that if I do this, then I will get to this result. But it's such a small percent of what is shaping our world. Like the subconscious is like 95+% of the function, the brain function, but also in terms of what's shaping our reality. And it's formed largely when we're children, up to about 7 or 8 years of age. But this is what you need to get into. This is what needs to be accessed for this lasting change. So a lot of common blocks for us in this area: procrastination, perfectionism, not feeling good enough, not feeling as if we know enough yet, so we hold ourselves back, a lot of self-doubt, maybe a fear of judgment. What are people going to say? Will they reject me? Will they abandon me? Feeling like others are better, or they look better, or they know more, or they're further ahead. We might lack clarity about our direction. We might feel unworthy or undeserving of our desires. We might overthink and overanalyze. Maybe we feel like it's not even possible for us. We might feel like it's hard to make money. It's hard to be healthy. It's hard to lose weight. It's hard to get clients, et cetera, et cetera. This keeps us stuck. It keeps us playing small. And this is where we change them by having, first of all, awareness. So as we said, that is where going back to getting to know ourselves, becoming present to some of these like reoccurring thoughts and emotions. It is taking responsibility for where we're at. Because as I said, no one else can do this for us. Like we can work with a coach, we can work with a mentor, we can work with a therapist or a health practitioner, but it's us, us and us alone who are with our thoughts and our, emotions and things like that all of the time. We can challenge them if it's not serving. We can reprogram, and we reprogram by repeating the new one, like the new desired thought, the new belief, the new emotion. So some of the really common persistent emotions, things like I feel really anxious, really stressed, resentful, doubtful, frustrated, anger or angry, bitter, sad, overwhelmed, disappointed, like this real powerlessness or hopelessness. So I'm sure there's things that you can yeah, I do feel that a lot. And when you look at the scale of consciousness, I love this, and I always put this in my trainings, and I think about it myself quite a lot. It's like, and this is David Hawkins, he had a book years ago, Power versus Force. And as a kinesiologist, he was able to muscle test the frequency or the vibratory state of each of these different states. And you can see here, like this, this is where most of the people, most of the planet tend to be a lot of the time, the anger, the fear, the grief, the apathy, the guilt, the shame. This is very contracting by nature. So as you know, when you're feeling angry, it's almost like I know straight away I feel this contraction in the solar plexus. Whereas when you start to move into these higher states, you're willing to see things differently. There's an acceptance, like love. This is expansive. This is more parasympathetic nervous system state. So this is where we need to sort of start to become really present to what reoccurring emotions are there. Are they kind of in these higher state? And it's not to say that we bypass, but it's like, let me be really aware of where I'm actually feeling a lot of the time. And then we can move through it and change it. So the same situations are going to keep arising, right? And you've probably found this. I know I did. You keep seeing the same sort of situations arising, but it's different people, different jobs, different clients. And the thing is with all of this, it's like you're the common denominator. You take you with you. That's what you need to realize. So the questions I ask you, and I mean, you can pause this and come back to it, but what does confidence mean to you? How does it feel in the body? Like when you're confident, do you feel that like in the solar plexus? Do you feel that in the chest? Do you feel that? Because it's almost like your whole physiology changes, your posture changes. What does doubt feel like in the body? Where can you feel that? So you might say, oh, doubt really hits me. And it could be in the same spot. It could be a different spot, but it often feels more contracting. I want you to write down 3 achievements, 3 wins that have made you feel confident. So you might say, well, I felt really confident when I finished that qualification, that study. I felt really confident when I got up on stage despite my fear and I was able to speak in front of that many people. Like, what is that main area you feel confident in? Why? Then also, what is the main area you feel confidence is lacking in and why? So once again, we're becoming really aware of what is actually going on. Why don't you feel fully confident yet? And also then ask yourself, is this lack of confidence due to lack of clarity as to what you want and where you're going? Is it that you're not fully all in and committed? Is it that maybe you're just not taking consistent action? Because sometimes we're like, well, I really want this thriving business, but I'm not confident in it. And it's like, well, okay, so are you actually taking action? Are you actually getting out there? Are you doing things so people know you're in business? Maybe is it not knowing how it will happen? Or is it a block? I.e., my work's not good enough yet, or it's too hard to make money, I don't have enough time. It's becoming really aware. Become aware, as we said, of our thoughts, our beliefs, doubt, emotions, things like that. And once we're aware of it, we can then start to clear this resistance. Because the thing is, our thoughts lead to feelings, which lead to actions, which lead to results. So if your thoughts are, oh, there's never enough time, there's never enough time, there's never enough time, that could be putting you into this kind of stressed, fearful, worried state. And when you're there, the actions that you take are very different from when your thoughts are, I can do this, I can do anything, because that's going to make you feel more confident, more certain, more convicted. And the actions you take there, once again, are very different and the results are different. So I really encourage you to think about this. Clear that resistance, as we said, get clear on it, what I want. Are my thoughts in alignment with that goal? If not, choose better thoughts. Are your beliefs in alignment with that goal? If not, we can use things like intention, repetition, hypnosis, belief coding. Are my emotions in line with that goal? If not, what predominant emotions are there? And then we need to process it and clear it. Now, EFT is a great way you can clear resistance if you're familiar with it. There's some fantastic videos on YouTube. Brad Yates is amazing. But you're basically tapping on points on the upper body, these acupressure points. It has been shown to reduce stress hormones, steady and slow the heart rate, change DNA expression, works really fast, and it changes your brain's pathways and updates brain's learnings. And so this is where you typically would give yourself a rating out of 10. So when you say, for instance, it could be, you know, I'm just so scared to put myself out there. Like, I'm scared to go and do a live stream. So when you feel into that fear, you might say it is 10 out of 10. And then you start to actually like hone in on the matter. So we're stating the problem and everything associated with it as we're tapping on the various points. So we start with the karate chop point, that is the setup point. Even though I really am scared about putting myself out there and doing a live stream, I choose to honor myself and how I feel. And we typically do that 3 times. And then we're just tapping on these points as we're thinking about what's happening, thinking about how it makes us feel, any thoughts related to it, anything that it brings up. And we do that. And as we're doing it, as I said, we're sending messages to the amygdala, that fear or, fight or flight alert kind of zone, to calm down. It's okay. And then we can start to do, once we feel it's calmer and we've reduced that rating, we can then do more of a positive round. I'm willing to see things differently. I'm willing to trust that the right clients will find me. I'm willing to put myself out there to speak my truth. And I trust that as I speak my truth, the right people will find me. It will be a resonant match with those that are meant and will benefit from my work. Or, and you will find, it clears a lot of that and you start to feel very differently. Change how you feel and how you think, and you change your whole point of attraction. Confidence code 3 is health and wellness. Now, I am a herbalist and nutritionist. I've been doing this since, 2011 or something like that. I don't do it as much now, but definitely it's still the foundation for everything that I do in terms of my own well-being. Because if you don't have health, you've got nothing. And it's one of those things that quite often people don't start to value it until they get older and things start going wrong. But how are you going to show up for your family, your loved ones, the business or career, you're trying to build a legacy, maybe the prosperity that you desire, if you've got no energy? Maybe you've got poor sleep, maybe you're constantly getting sick, you don't feel good. And it's going to be much harder to build a life that you love, especially longer term. And so what I like in terms of things like, for instance, just more general eating kind of arrangements or plans, it's like that crowding out. So we're kind of crowding out the things that we know aren't going to work for us. So, if, for instance, you're someone that has, I don't know, soda, like maybe we know that's kind of not the best for us, like soft drinks. So that is where we're kind of like, you might be saying, okay, I know I have 3 a day. So we start kind of crowding that out by bringing in maybe more filtered water, things like that. Now, macros, this is where we can start to say, okay, maybe a quarter of the plate will be protein, maybe a quarter of the plate will be, in terms of some sort of starch, and then the other half could be the vegetables or the salad. So, things like that. But you've really got to be looking at your metabolism, your history. So if there's been a lot of stress, a lot of blood sugar irregularity, there's been, thyroid dysfunction, adrenal dysfunction, if you're moving through various hormonal changes, that is where you need to take that into account. You need to look at your current weight versus your ideal weight, what feels good for you. So some people aren't great at, say, tolerating fat. Also, some people can't have heaps of protein because they don't have a lot of stomach acid. So you need to work with you and your body, and that's where you get to know yourself more. Blood tests are fantastic. So that this feeds into a few of them, but once you obviously have clarity about your biomarkers, so you might be clear that, yeah, I do have lower iron or I do have lower B12 or lower vitamin D, then we can work with that because once again, it's bio individuality. Lifestyle is really important. You know, you're sleeping okay. That's a priority. That's when we're, cleansing and releasing and also, of course, rejuvenating. Stress levels, we need to be sort of managing that because we know that that's going to affect every single body system, short term and long term. We need to be moving every day. You know, a lot of people are very sedentary these days, and that is not going to help you mind, body, or soul. We've got to look at your life stage. So prenatal, pregnancy, perimenopause, menopause, all of that healthy aging, additional exercise requirements. So as we get older, we really need to be more conscious of our muscle and bone health. And of course, self-care and nervous system regulation work. Now, DNA testing, I was doing a lot of this sort of, especially a couple of years back, and there's lots of different places that do it. But this is a great idea that you can look more specific at your DNA. And as we know, the DNA, as they say, it's kind of that foundation. Obviously, environment's the biggest part of it, but it just gives us a really good idea of, based on our DNA, things that we need to be more mindful of. You know, are we someone that needs, like, I don't need a lot of fat. And, I've got sort of like average carb needs, average protein needs. But you can also see, like, I remember, for instance, I had higher needs for zinc and selenium and B12 and folate or folinic acid and things like that, B3, whereas other people might have higher needs for, B2 or vitamin C, things like that. Really good to know. Also, your omega-3 requirements. So I, for instance, don't convert the plant sources of the omega-3 active compounds to like the EPA and DHA, which has been found to sort of help the body. So that is where, it is better for me to sort of get it from like fish and things like that. Also, your level of plant intake. So there is one of the DNA the genotypes that I have, it's that there's a heart attack gene, that 9p21, and I have 2 copies of it. So, knowing that was good, because I'm just like, okay, that means like from all the studies they've done, it shows that those that have a higher vegetable and fruit intake, it kind of mitigates that risk. So you think, fantastic, I'm not going to go into a carnivore diet. You can look at things like your fiber needs, prebiotic fiber needs, sleep needs, exercise, stress tolerance, fear response, rewards, Alzheimer's risk, all of that can sort of be covered. Once again, really useful to know. So bringing everything together, okay, so this is where we start to look at these 3 confidence codes: the clarity, the mindset and energetics, and health and wellness. So let's look at an example. So let's just say Alicia wants to lose weight. She wants to tone up. She wants to balance her hormones. So the first confidence code, clarity. And as I said, you can also interchange this with success code, but for these purposes, we're looking at confidence. So she would say, okay, so the goal, let's look at that SMART acronym: losing 5 kgs, 10 weeks, wants to be healthy for loved ones. She bought the new sneakers and activewear, engaged a health coach, joined a gym, and she's got all the chocolate out of the house. Fantastic. Then she's got a bit more clarity around her energy type. So she's looked at human design and she knows, okay, she's a projector. So that is where projectors are better at. They get bursts of energy and then rest. So ideally, doing a 9 to 5 job is probably not the best for her in ways, but just say, if she has to do that, then she knows that maybe to schedule, meetings and more productive time during these hours. But also things like she might realize she actually sleeps better when she's in her own bed, her own energy field, at least once or twice a week. So that's going to help her. Then she might realize that she's got quite a lot of planets in Libra. So that's very much, the balance, the peace, the stability. So, we want to take that into account. Maybe she also realizes that when she looks at the love languages, her primary love language is words of affirmation. She can use that for herself. She can be doing a lot of affirmations. Then she might say, okay, when she starts to get a bit more clarity around her values, she might say, well, eating out and, like she's a real foodie. So that's fine. That's a value. So how can she do that in a way that is healthy for her and where she can be more conscious of, portions and macros and more hidden ingredients? So then the confidence code 2 in this scenario for Alicia is looking at the mindset and energetic. So she needs to say, okay, are the thoughts and beliefs in alignment with this goal? So she might realize, oh my gosh, okay, actually, I have been thinking and feeling and believing that it's hard to lose weight. And she also was realizing, she was saying a lot, it's in the genes, or it's all downhill from here, it's easier for others. So that all needs to be worked on in terms of needs upgrading. She feels a lot of frustration a lot of the time because things aren't working, or she's feeling a lot of bitterness and resentment that others at work do the bare minimum. So that is not going to help her. So that also needs to be taken into account. Now, the third confidence code, health and wellness here, well, as she said in the first part, when we looked at the relevant steps that were taken in the goal, she engaged a health coach. She's walking every day. She joined a gym. She's got a meal plan to follow. She's got targeted supplements. But she realizes that she's got the clarity on that, she's a poor sleeper. So she started to really prioritize sleep. She doesn't have caffeine now after midday. She's in bed by 10. She stopped and turned her phone off an hour before bed. She does have a stressful job, so she's adding in more regular breaks. She's, also doing meditation and breath work each day. She's doing monthly massages. Now let's look at the second example. I know I'm moving really quickly, but I don't want this to be really long, but it's so, so important. So Leonie, for instance, wants to build a business. She loves supporting other women. She wants to make at least 10K months. A lot of women can relate to this. So the code here for clarity. So the SMART goal is she wants to focus on a business, have 2 paying clients and a free lead magnet launch within 4 weeks to build her email list. So she's built a website. She's got her Instagram, her Facebook, her LinkedIn. She's posting regularly. She's invested in a mindset coach. And she's a pro at Canva. Then she also realizes her energy type in human design is a generator. So it's really important for her to respond to things. Like, she's also maybe a sacral authority. So it's really important for her to really trust that, oh yeah, that lights me up. That's going to bring her joy and satisfaction. And she realizes that, she has that almost unlimited energy, and it's activated when she's doing something that brings her joy, that satisfies her. So one of her top values is family. So she wants to build her business around the times that she desires to be present for the children and weekends free to have time with the kids and the partner. Then she looks at her natal chart, and she realizes she's Virgo sun and rising, very detail oriented and a planner, which she can incorporate, of course, into the structure and business planning. Her Venus is in Pisces. And as I said, you don't need to worry too much about this, but these days with ChatGPT and everything, you can always just Google it. But her Venus is in Pisces. So she really does love, spirituality. So she can bring that into sessions, or she can be part of a business network of other spiritual and creative women. Then it comes to mindset and energetics as the confidence code too. So once again, the thoughts and beliefs and alignments with this goal. So she realized that she's got to work really hard for money, and people don't see my value. So that needs upgrading. She also realized that there was a lot of frustration there, which can be, an out of alignment set theme for a generator energy type. But also, there was frustration, lack of clients, lack of money, lack of spare time, and that frequency is being reflected back to her. So once again, she's clear on that. So there's work to do there. Now, confidence code 3, health and wellness. So she'd been on a paleo diet. She'd lost weight. She was feeling she had better digestion, but her energy hasn't been good. So she's booked in to get some updated blood tests, which is great, to look at all the things that we think of that can affect energy, thyroid health, iron, B12. And she's going to book in with a health practitioner once the results are back. She has started doing gym sessions with Buddy for accountability 3 times a week, and walks with the family at least 3 times a week. And she realizes that she does need to carve out me time. And she's discussed that with the partner. So they're building that into the week so he has the children during certain times. So also, if this is really resonating with you, I do have self-paced options. I've got, training series. As I said, I do have this as a much larger kind of, workbook with lots of trackers and questions and journal prompts, things like that. I do have various other trainings and masterclasses, and of course, one-to-one if you are interested in doing that as well. And then, my website, my Linktree, my Instagram. I've got a free Reclaiming You Facebook group. So thank you, everyone. And I really hope this serves you, and thank you for being part of this summit. And much love.